Making solid builds in Elden Ring can be pretty complicated, or it can be as simple as upgrading a solid weapon and stacking a couple buffs. Hi everyone, my name's Diabedor, and today I'm going to walk you through the process of setting up a simple, universal build at the very start of Elden Ring. Then I'll show you how to take that build and use it as a foundation, which you can expand into solid early builds for each of the 5 damage stats. If you find this video helpful, please leave a like, share the video, and consider subscribing. It really helps me out. Special thank you to The Story of Us in a Bus, Mini Cake, Raymond Bridger, and Dylan Riley for supporting me as channel members. If you want to see your name immortalized in the Hall of Insolence and get some special perks, then consider supporting my channel as a member too. Part 1. Prerequisite items and other shit. Before we talk about any of the individual builds, we're first going to go grab a bunch of shit which we're going to use in all of these builds. This will get you set up to be pretty strong pretty quickly. I'm not going to go into too much detail here for the sake of brevity, but I do suggest you go watch my quick start guide for essential key items and runes, and then come back to this guide for the rest of the gear that we're going to need. To start off, we're going to head over to Fort Faroth in the Dragon Barrow, which is at the very east end of Caelid. Inside of the fort, we're going to grab Radagon's Sword Seal, which is going to give us a big boost early on in the game. This is a high-level area, so if you're on a low-level character, which is who this video is intended for, the enemies here will probably one-shot you, but you can easily just run past all of them like you saw I did just there. So once you get up that ladder in the tower, we're going to head over to the furthest hole on the rooftop where there's a ladder, drop down, run past the rat, be careful not to get hit by it, grab the Golden Rune 12 off of that corpse, and then you can jump over to the hidden attic over here. Again, be careful of the giant rats that are over here. Drop down into the other room, and now you can grab the Radagon Sword Seal off of a corpse. Radagon Sword Seal gives you +5 to Vigor, Endurance, Strength, and Dexterity while you have it equipped, which makes it great for meeting weapon requirements early on. Up next, we're going to head over to the Death Touch Catacombs in Limgrave. So this is right next to the Saints Bridge in northern Limgrave. It's kind of impossible to miss the bridge because it's a big-ass bridge with a grace next to it. If you go west from the bridge up the road a bit, there's a little path that you can take here to get up to the Death Touch Catacombs. It'll be right on your left. Usually there's a ghost in front of it. Sometimes he's not there. I don't know what determines that. But usually there's a ghost in front of it, so you can find it pretty easily. Go inside the catacombs. Once you get to the second flight of stairs, you're going to make a right. There's a little hidden tunnel here, so you can go through this, run on all the way through, and on your right, you'll come out to this room where you can get the Uchi Katana, which we're going to be using for a few things in this guide. Also, just a quick note, the lever ahead of you will open this boss door here so that you can fight the boss in the catacombs, in case you don't know about that. But anyway, so we're going to use the Uchi. It requires 11 strength and 15 dex to wield, which is one of the reasons why we grab Radagon Sword Seal, so that we can get those stats. Some classes start with less than 10 dex, so if you don't have 10 dex, you can use that Golden Rune 12 we grabbed back in Fort Faroth to level up a couple times, get your dex to 10, and Radagon Sword Seal will boost it to 15. Anyway, after that, we're going over to the first step, where we're going to go grab a gold pickled foulfoot off of the beach south of the Site of Grace. So from the Site of Grace, go to the south, you'll come to this cliff here, and you see down on the beach there's that spirit stream on the pillar. That has a really wide radius, so you can just safely jump down on Torrent, and it'll prevent you from taking fall damage. And then right next to it, there is a gold pickled foulfoot on a corpse. There's a bunch of skeletons nearby, but you can just run away from them. We're going to use that to increase the runes that we get by killing Grail over here by Fort Faroth. So we have the Uchi, which does bleed buildup. You can go over to Grail, and then if you whack her with the Uchi, she has a fuckload of health, so you're not really going to do a meaningful amount of damage. But once you proc a bleed on her, because the Uchi does bleed buildup, it'll take off a big chunk of her health, because bleeds do damage as a percentage of the enemy's max health. So you can do that. It's going to take like 3 or 4 minutes, but just keep whacking her. Once you get her pretty low, you can eat the gold pickled foulfoot. It lasts for 3 minutes, but I like to wait till she gets pretty low just in case. And then after you eat the foulfoot, just keep whacking her until she dies. This whole process took me about 4.5 minutes. But be persistent in your whacking of this disabled mother who's just trying to look out for her children that are around her. It's actually really sad if you kill Grail, if I'm being honest. But once she dies, if you have the foulfoot, she will give you 96,000 runes or so, and we're going to use those to level up to get the stats that are prerequisite for our builds. So no matter which build you're going to make from this video, you're going to want 25 Vigor. So with Radagon Sword Seal, that'll boost us up to 30 Vigor. Radagon Sword Seal actually makes you take 15% more damage, but at lower Vigor levels, the +5 Vigor it gives you cancels that out. So we're going to get 25 Vigor, which will be boosted to 30 by the Source Seal. And then depending on the build from this video that you want to make, these are the stats you should aim for. So you're looking for the minimum requirements to wield your weapon. So for example, in the strength build, we have 15 intelligence because the crystal sword requires 15 intelligence. You want the minimum requirements to wield the weapon, and then you want to pump the damage stat that the weapon scales with. So crystal sword is a strength weapon, for example, so that one pumps strength. In addition to that, we're also going to go over to the Round Table Hold. If you go talk to the Twin Maiden Husks, we're going to buy the Knight set from her, which will cost you 13,500 runes. After leveling up, you probably won't have the runes to afford this, but there are these golden rune items like the one that we picked up in Fort Faroth. So if you follow my quick start guide, I talk about the graveyards throughout Limgrave in that video. So like there's a couple over here by Fort Height, there's a couple over here by Summonwater Village. So you can go to those, grab a bunch of golden runes, and then use them, and that'll give you a fuckload of runes so that you can buy this armor. So again, it's going to cost you 13,500 runes, which is a little expensive, but it's worth having because it is very solid armor. And we're going to use the Knight set in all of the builds that we're going to make, so you definitely want to grab this. Up next, we're heading over to the War Master Shack in northern Limgrave, where we're going to go up to this cliff over here to the northeast of it. So you can follow the road up through the woods here, and then just make a right, and it takes you to the cliff. So at the end of this cliff, there is a knight riding around on a horse. If you kill him, you saw he just used a spell that's called the Golden Vow, Ash of War. If you kill him, he drops that. You can hit him with the Uchi's Unsheath skill a couple times, and that'll kill his horse pretty quick. And then once he's on the ground, you can just walk out to him for the crit. When he dies, you can pick up the Golden Vow, Ash of War off of his corpse. He may also drop some other stuff like his armor, but he's guaranteed to drop Golden Vow. If you want the armor, you can use that, but I didn't bother to use that because you don't always get it. In order to put Golden Vow on a weapon so we can use it, you need to go to the cellar in the Gatefront Ruins and grab the Whetstone Knife, which you already grabbed in the quick start guide that I know you watched before watching this video, right? And then we also need a weapon to put Golden Vow on, so I like to get the dagger from the Twin Maiden Husks at the Round Table Hold because it's lightweight and cheap. It only costs 400 runes. Go to any site of grace, select the Ashes of War menu, find the dagger in your inventory, and then select it. Select the Golden Vow, Ash of War. You're going to equip that on the dagger. It doesn't matter what affinity you give it because we're not going to use it to attack, so I just go with Sacred because that's just the first option there. You're going to equip the dagger in one of your weapon slots, so I like to put it in my second right-hand slot. And then in order to use it, what you do is you press the Switch Weapon right button, you cast Golden Vow by using your skill button, and then you can switch back to the Uchi Katana or whatever weapon you're using. Golden Vow makes you do more damage and take less damage, so it's very good for any build. After that, we're heading up into the Urnia of the Lakes to go grab some stuff over there. So, normally you technically have to kill Godric in Stormvale Castle to get to the Urnia, but there's also a shortcut you can take on the side of the castle to get into the Urnia early. So you see, from the Stormhill Shack, we're going to follow the road north. From the end of the Broken Bridge, you can jump down to a little cliffside path there, and then that just takes you around the castle. So there we were at the Stormhill Shack. Just follow the road directly north. It'll take you to this broken bridge. At the end of the bridge, look down to your left. You will see that there's some shit that you can fucking jump down to. And then you just go and follow the cliff. And this takes you up into the Urnia. At the end of the cliffside path, you will come to the lake-facing cliffside of Grace. You can appreciate the Urnia landscape before we go down into it. So from the lake-facing cliffs, we're going to follow the road down into the lake level, and we're going to go across the entirety of the Urnia here. So I want to talk about map fragments real quick. You'll see these lighthouse icons on your blank map if you haven't been grabbing them already. Make sure you grab them so you can actually see what the hell you're doing. It'll make it a lot easier to follow this guide and to play the game in general. So there's one down there by the Lascar Ruins, and then we're going to basically just beeline it straight northwest through Liurnia all the way up to the road to the manor. So there's one down in the Lascar Ruins, and then you'll also come across one in the Academy Gate Town, which is the one that I used to make that image. So here's the Academy Gate Town. So if you just keep heading north, you will see these lighthouse icons on your map. You can grab them, fill in your blank map, and then that makes it easier to follow where you're going. So once you get to the Academy Gate Town, you're going to head northwest, go under the giant bridge that leads north, and you will come across that island there. That's the Sorcerer's Isle. You'll be able to see it on your map. So we're going to go to that, and we're going to use that as a reference point for a couple things, including getting up to the road to the manor. So go past the Sorcerer's Isle, go to the northwestern shore, and you will come to the northern Liurnia Lakeshore Site of Grace there, where there's a map next to it, and then you're going to follow the road north from that. It'll take you through the King's Realm ruins, and on the other side of the ruins is the road to the manor. So the King's Realm ruins, there is an illusory wall here at the end of it. You'll see this big wall, just smack it, that will dispel it. And then there is a Site of Grace and our boy EG on the other side of the wall. We came to EG because he is the simplest way to get Somber Smithing Stones 1, 2, 3, and 4. So he sells an infinite supply of Somber Stones 1 and 2, and he sells 3 each of Somber Stones 3 and 4. So you can buy them to upgrade a bunch of weapons here. Now, the 3s and 4s are pretty expensive. They're like 3,000, 4,000 runes. So we're going to go and grab a couple free ones that are in the area around EG as well. So from EG, if you head southeast, you can come across to the cliff over here, and if you just come to the end of the cliff, this is a spot where you can safely drop down without dying from fall damage. And then we're just going to run to the northeast over here where you saw, I marked on the map, there's like a little bit of ground sticking out from the cliff, and on this little bit of ground sticking out from the cliff, there is a corpse, which will give you a Somber Stone 4. Now, I mentioned we would use the Sorcerer's Isle as a reference point earlier, so now we're going to head back over to the Sorcerer's Isle, where there is a Site of Grace on it, in case you didn't grab that. And if you head to the west of that, get onto the road, and you can make a little curve around here, and this little cliff thing has a Somber Stone 3 on it that we can grab. So from the Sorcerer's Isle, you see where we're going, so we're just going to run on the shore. There's a couple enemies here, but you should be able to easily run past them, come up to the trees and shit, and then just go through that. And there is a corpse here with a Somber Stone 3. So once you grab the stone, a bunch of the Wraith Callers there are going to spawn. So I was like, oh yeah, fuck you, I'm just going to jump down. Don't do that because you'll die. It's not a safe fall. You can easily just, so I had to come back here to grab my runes, but you can easily just run past the Wraith Callers. And that's better anyway, because if you drop down the cliff right next to the Wraith Callers, you see there's a bunch of balloons in the lake. The corpse right here next to the cliff has 6 throwing daggers on it. There are 5 balloons in the area around the Sorcerer's Isle. So what we're going to do is we're going to equip those 6 throwing daggers that we just picked up, and then you can use them to pop the balloons for free golden runes. Again, just to be clear, this is in the area to the west of the Sorcerer's Isle. There are 5 of these balloons here. But if you go up to the balloons, lock on to the balloon itself, not the soldiers underneath it. You want to hit the balloon itself. And so again, here is a demonstration of that. Lock onto the balloon, hit it with the throwing dagger, it'll pop instantly, and you get a golden rune 6, which is worth 2,000 runes. There were 5 of these balloons in the area around the Sorcerer's Isle, so you can pop them all for a free 10,000 runes, and you can use those to be able to purchase the Somber Stones 1 and 2 from EG. So we buy the 1 and 2 from EG, and then we just picked up a 3 and 4 in the area around him, and then we're going to head over to Caelid to grab a Somber Stone 5, and we're going to use these Somber Stones to upgrade the weapon for whatever build you make. So I'm over here using mapgenie.io because I didn't get footage of the fucking map in-game. But from the Saints Bridge, if you follow the road to the east, it'll take you straight through Caelid. Just keep following it, go south, and then eventually you will come to the Astray from Caelid Highway North Site of Grace. This one, it can be a little easy to miss because it's a little ways off the road, but there's like a sword monument with like a bunch of big-ass swords sticking out of the ground right next to it. If you keep going further south, then you can grab the map from that triangle in the road there, which you should probably do, so you can see the map of Caelid, but I'm not going to show that in this video. I'm going to assume that you did that on your own. You know, play the game, explore, go get shit. But yeah, so from the Astray from Caelid Highway North Site of Grace, we're going to head down into the swamp, and then we're going to go north through the swamp, and we're going to come over to a canyon here. So you'll see that if you have the map of the Dragon Barrow from when you went to Fort Faroth, then you'll see that there's like that circular thing there. But if not, it's pretty hard to miss the cliff because it's a, you know, like a big, or excuse me, the canyon, because it's a big black thing on the map. But yeah, so here we are at the Astray from Caelid Highway North Site of Grace. We are heading northeast over to the canyon. So I tried going straight to it. You can't do that. I don't think those are safe falls. So just find your way down into the swamp, and then you can just head straight north. It'll take you to the canyon. It's kind of hard to miss because it's a big ass canyon. And then inside this canyon, run all the way through. You will come to this crystal mass here with a Graven Skull next to it, and the crystal mass has a Somberstone 5 on a corpse there. So grab that, and then you can just run away. The Graven Skull is not worth your time to kill it. And it should lose aggro pretty quick, so you can fast travel out. Now we're going to gather a bunch of crystal tears, which we're going to use in our Wondrous Physic, which you should have grabbed in the Quick Start Guide. Once again, we're going to use these crystal tears as buffs to enhance our build a little bit further. So the first one we're going to grab is the Strength Knot Crystal Tear from the War Master Shack. So from the War Master Shack, you can just go to the northwest. There's a little cliff here, so just go around the corner. There's a troll on the cliff. I managed to sneak behind him, so he didn't aggro on me. And then there's a basin there, which has the Strength Knot Crystal Tear, which boosts your strength by 10 for 3 minutes when you drink it in your Wondrous Physic. We're also going to head over to the Third Church of America, and if you go to the Minor Erd Tree in the Mistwood, which is kind of hard to miss because it is a 1,000 meter tall tree, if you go over to that, there is a basin at the bottom of it, which has the Spike Crack Tier and the Green Spill Crystal Tier. Up next, we're going to head over to the Scenic Isle in Liurnia. So from the Laskyar Ruins, or the Academy Gate Town, it's northwest of the Laskyar Ruins, south of the Academy Gate Town. You see where the telescope is. It's right next to that right there. And then from the Scenic Isle, if you head a little bit to the northwest, there's another little isle that has the crystal tier on it. So just drop down to the lake, head to the northwest, you'll find this isle. It's got some Albinarics on it, be careful because they can fuck you up. And in the basin, you will grab the Dexterity Knot Crystal Tier for plus 10 dex when you drink it in your Wondrous Physic. After that, we're going to head over to the road to the manor, and again, we're going to go down to the cliff southeast of it so that we can safely drop down to the lake level, and then directly north of that, by the cliff, there is the Intelligence Knot Crystal Tier that we're going to go grab. So, again, from the road to the manor site of Grace, just head to the southeast so that you can safely drop down to the lake level, and then we're going to just run through the woods over here to the northwest. Be careful of the finger creepers, especially that one that you see the finger sticking out of the ground. That shit'll grab you and fuck you up. But right next to it, we're going to grab the Intelligence Knot Crystal Tier. And then finally, we're going to head over to the Weeping Peninsula, which we haven't been to in this guide, but it's south of Limgrave. Just follow the road through the peninsula, and then you can head north, and that'll take you over here to the south of the Lookout Tower site of Grace. It's on a little cliff thing next to a pond here, and then from there, we're going to head down into the woods to the northwest, and we're going to go to the north of the Demi-Human Ruins, where we're going to find the Faith Knot Crystal Tier. So you'll see it's surrounded by a bunch of flowers. Just run up to it, grab that shit, and there's your Faith Knot Crystal Tier. So here's an optional part of the guide, which people are going to take umbrage with, but I strongly recommend you do this. If you head over to the Saints Bridge, you can find Alexander the Warrior Jar on the cliff just to the south of it. You see I had to do this on a different save because he moves. If he's not here, then he's probably at the Gale Tunnel in Caelid, or he may also be at the Redmane Castle for the Radon Festival if you have been to the Altus Plateau, but we have not gone there yet in this guide, so he should be accessible to you. So if he's in the crater, talk to him. He wants you to hit him a couple times to knock him out of the crater. Talk to him again, he'll give you an Exalted Flesh, which is a nice little item to get. And then what we're going to do is fucking murder him, and he will drop the Warrior Jar Shard, which increases our Ash of War damage by 10% while it's equipped. So, you know, you can do his quest to get the Shroud of Alexander for a 15% buff instead, but that requires you to take, or to go through like 80% of the game. I figure it's better to kill him early and have the slightly weaker buff for the entire game instead of a slightly stronger buff for like the last couple hours of it, you feel me? Build number 1, the Crystal Sword Strength build. Now that we've gotten all the universal stuff and set up our foundational build, we're going to start going over each of the individual builds that we're going to do in this video. So first, we're going to go over the strength build. We're going to get the Crystal Sword from the village of the Albinarics in southwest of Liurnia. So from the Scenic Isle, or whatever grace you have in the southern part of Liurnia, just head to the west. You'll see the gigantic plateau thing. You can run underneath that, go through the poison swamp, and then you'll find this hill that leads up to the village of the Albinarics. Grab the Site of Grace here, and then north of the Site of Grace, there is a rope bridge that takes you over to this little island thing. So go across that. Be careful not to get owned by that fucking sorcerer. And then to the northeast, you will find a corpse that has the Crystal Sword. We're going to use the Crystal Sword on 2 of these builds. The first one is the Strength build, because despite the fact that it has an intelligence requirement of 15 and has intelligence scaling, it's actually a strength weapon. Okay, so, you know, the The scaling letters and stuff in this game can be really misleading. That's one of the reasons why I want to make this weapon, because a lot of people think, oh, well, you know, it has intelligence scaling, it does magic damage, I'll level up intelligence. If you want to get the best results out of this sword, you level strength for it and use it on a strength build with the minimum intelligence required to wield it. So here is the build that we're going to be using for it. We've got our 25 Vigor, we've got 15 Intelligence and 10 Dexterity, because those are the minimum stats required to wield the crystal sword, and then we pumped the rest of our points into Strength, bringing it up to 24, so we get pretty solid damage with the sword upgraded to +5, because again, we gathered those Somber Stones so we can upgrade the weapons. For our weapons, we've got the Crystal Sword, we've got a Dagger with the Golden Vow Ash of War equipped for a buff. For our talismans, we've got Reduvia Sword Seal, which we're going to use early on. You're going to want to ditch it once you get 40 Vigor, but while you have under 40 Vigor, it's worth using. So you start with 1 talisman slot, and you can get a maximum of 4. If you're early on in the game, you're only going to have like 1 or 2 of them, and in fact, in each of these builds, I'm going to show me killing Margit to get the first talisman pouch, which gives you your second talisman slot, and in that, you're going to want to use either the Warrior Jar Shard if you killed Alexander, which is my recommendation, or for this build, you can use the Winged Sword Insignia instead. Which gives you a buff when you hit an enemy multiple times in a short period. So basically, the more you hit the enemy in a row, the more damage you do. But preferably, you'd use the Warrior Jar Shard, and then the other 2 slots I just filled up because they're there on the build planner. If you don't have the talisman pouches for them, then don't worry about them. So, first of all, don't forget to bring the weapon over to Hugh or EG and upgrade it to +5 using the Somber Smithing Stones we picked up. Most of your damage comes from weapon upgrades, not stats, so upgrading the weapons is really important. You can upgrade any one weapon to +5 using the shit that we picked up in this guide. We're also going to put the Crystal Tiers in our Wondrous Physic. For this build, we're going to use the Strength Knot Crystal Tier and the Spiked Crack Tier, which will boost our charge attack damage, because charge heavy attacks are great. Before boss fights, you want to make sure you use your buffs, so we drink the Wondrous Physic, we switch over to the Dagger with Golden Vow and cast Golden Vow, and then we switch back to the sword, and I recommend you two-hand it to get the 50% strength bonus from two-handing, and then you're going to drink a blue flask so that you have FP, so you can use the Ash of War Spinning Slash, which does a fuckload of damage and a pretty good amount of poise damage too. So you see here with the Vigor and the buffs that we've got, I'm not taking that much damage from Margit because he's an early game boss, and then, you know, I'm doing a whole bunch of damage to him with the fucking sword because it's upgraded to +5, and we have a couple buffs, and it's great. So when you kill Margit, you will get a talisman pouch. This will give you your second talisman slot. So like I said, I recommend you use the Warrior Jar Shard in that slot to boost Spinning Slash's damage by 10%. But if you don't want to kill Alexander, or you can't kill him because he's at the Verdun Festival or whatever, then you can instead head over to Stillwater Cave in Liurnia, and when you kill the boss here, they will drop the Winged Sword Insignia, which you can use instead. So again, before boss fights, drink your Physic, cast Golden Vow, switch over to the sword and two-hand it, and then drink a blue flask so you have FP for Spinning Slash, and then you're going to go up to the boss and you're going to fucking spin to win, as they say. So this boss is a clean run knight. The main thing you gotta be careful of is her grab with her glowing spear like that. You just dodge backwards to get away from it pretty easily. She'll die pretty quick because our shit is solid, and she will drop the Winged Sword Insignia, which boosts your damage with successive hits. So Spinning Slash hits 3 times in a row, and so the Winged Sword Insignia complements Spinning Slash really nicely if you don't have the Warrior Jar Shard. So these are supposed to be builds for like the very early game. I think my character is like level 25 or level 35 for this, you know, like I'm a really low level. So the main thing that you need to do going forward, besides upgrading your weapons and getting, you know, better talismans and stuff, is you really want to level your Vigor. Don't worry about your other damage stats. Like I said, most of your damage comes from weapon upgrades, not stats, and so we've already got the weapon upgraded to +5, which is good through Limgrave, Liurnia, and Caelid too, you know. So don't worry about upgrading your like strength or your damage stats for these builds. Worry about upgrading your Vigor, get that to 40. Once you have 40 Vigor, you can get the other stats required for the weapon, you know, so that you can take off Reduvia Sword Seal, because the Sword Seal makes you take 15% more damage, and once you have 40 Vigor, it's not worth it anymore. Build number 2, the Icerind Hatchet Dexterity build. For the Dex build, we're going to use the Icerind Hatchet, which is an axe that does frostbite buildup and has good Dex scaling. It is found in the Temple Quarter in Liurnia. So I showed here a couple of reference points so you can get to the temple quarter. Once you get to it, there is a Site of Grace on the northwest side of it, and then you see there's that island I marked on the map. That is where the Icerind Hatchet is. So from the Site of Grace, you just run through it. There's some Elven Arcs here, but you can just run past them. There is a building with a chest right next to the point where we marked, and inside the chest, you will find the Icerind Hatchet. The Icerind Hatchet is basically purely dexterity scaling. It has a little bit of strength scaling, but the majority of it is dex, so that's what we're going to focus on for this build. So we've got our 25 vigor, we've got the minimum required 11 strength to wield the axe, and then I just pumped all the rest of the points into dex, which brought it up to 28. For weapons, we've got the hatchet, and we've also got a dagger with the Golden Vow Ash of War. For our talismans, we're going to be using Radagon Sword Seal because this is a really low-level build. And then once you get the second talisman pouch, preferably you would use the Warrior Jar Shard. If you don't want to kill Alexander, then you can use the Winged Sword Insignia instead. For armor, we've got the Knight set, and in our Wondrous Physic, we have the Dex tier and the Magic Shroud and Crack tier. As always, don't forget to upgrade the axe. You bring it up to +5 because we have Somber Stones 1 through 5. And then at any Site of Grace, you're going to want to mix your Wondrous Physic. So first, we're going to use the Dex tier because the axe scales with Dex. And so, the +10 Dex will make us do some more damage. And then for the second slot, I considered using the Green Spill Crystal tier to raise the max stamina. But I decided to go with the Spike Crack tier instead. Once we get it in a little bit, which we're going to do in the next clip, we're going to use the Magic Shroud and Crack tier, which I'll explain once we get there. But before that, you can use the Spike tier for charge attack damage. So as always, don't forget to use your buffs. Make sure you drink your Wondrous Physic, switch to the dagger, cast Golden Vow, and then switch back to the axe. I like to two-hand it because I prefer the two-handed moveset over the one-handed moveset. So what you're going to do with this axe is you're going to hit the enemy with Hoarfrost Stomp a couple times. Hoarfrost Stomp is its Ash of War. It does a bunch of magic damage and it does a bunch of frostbite buildup. You're going to frostbite the enemy with it, and then you're going to go to hit the enemy with the axe itself. So frostbite takes off a chunk of the enemy's health and it makes them take 20% more damage while they're frostbitten, meaning that you'll do a fuckload of damage with the axe. After you kill Margit and get your second talisman slot, preferably you'd use the Warrior Jar Shard to boost the damage of Hoarfrost Stomp. It doesn't boost the frostbite buildup, but it does boost the damage that the crystals do, the magic damage that they do. But if you don't have that, you can use the Winged Sword Insignia, or you can get something like the Axe Talisman for charged heavy attack damage instead. And then what we're also going to do is head over to the Minor Erd Tree in northeast Liurnia. So you saw from the Academy Gate Town, you can head to the northeast to the shore and then just follow the road straight up to the tree. There's a bunch of these ancestral followers around it, but you should be able to kill them pretty easily. So once all these ancestral follower guys are dead, we're going to kill the Erd Tree avatar here at the Minor Erd Tree. So again, make sure you drink your Wondrous Physic, switch to the dagger, cast Golden Vow, and then switch back to the axe. You can two-hand it if you want. I would prefer to two-hand it. And then you're going to hit the tree with Hoarfrost Stomp a couple times. You saw it proc to Frostbite, which took off a chunk of its health. Now that the tree is frostbitten, it also takes 20% more damage, and so the axe is going to fuck it up. Currently, I have the Spike Cracked here in the axe, so I'm going for the charged heavy attacks, and you can see they do a whole bunch of damage, and they also do pretty good poise damage. Try to go for the tree's knees because its hitbox is a little wonky and it can be hard to hit it like face on. So I like to go for the legs/knees. Once the tree is dead, it will drop the Magic Shroud and Crack tier, which we're going to put in our Wondrous Physic. The gimmick of this axe is that it has Hoarfrost Stomp. It's a way of getting Hoarfrost Stomp and Frostbite build up early. You see the axe itself doesn't have any magic attack power, so the magic tier will not boost your melee hits, but it will boost the damage of Hoarfrost Stomp because Hoarfrost Stomp's ice crystals do magic damage. Now, you're probably going to look at this footage and say, Diabetor, your Hoarfrost Stomp is doing 32 damage per hit. What the fuck are you talking about? This dragon was a terrible choice of enemy to demonstrate that because it has 80% magic resistance. But trust me, against other enemies, with the Magic Shrouding tier plus Warrior Jar Shard, Hoarfrost Stomp itself will do a bunch of damage, and it doesn't use that much FP, so it's good for taking out like groups of enemies and shit. With that said, I did choose the dragon because Icerind Hatchet has the special effect of doing bonus damage to dragons. So, that's a nice little gimmick that it has because it's a scale from an ice dragon or something like that. But anyway, so going forward with this build, first thing you want to do is pump your vigor, get that shit to 40 as soon as possible, get the minimum stats required to use the hatchet and the minimum endurance you need in order to be able to wear the hatchet and all our gear, the armor and all that shit. Hatchet without being in heavy load. And then you want to get rid of Radagon Sword Seal because it makes you take more damage. Below 40 Vigor, it's a solid choice. Once you get 40 Vigor, get rid of it because it just hurts you. And then you can level up Dex and your other stats going forward after that. Build number 3, the Meteorite Staff Intelligence build. The setup for this one is going to be a bit more involved than the setup for the other builds because we need to get not only the staff, but also a couple solid spells to use with it. So first, to get the staff, we're going to head over to the Astray from Caelid Highway north side of Grace, and we're going to head up into the ruins just north of it. These are called the Street of Sages ruins. You saw on the southwest corner of on the map, you can mark this building here. That's where you get the meteorite staff off of that corpse. Be careful not to get stuck on the fucking flowers there. Also, in the Street of Sages ruins, from where you got the meteorite staff, if you head north, first, there's this building on the side, which I grabbed this armor set here because I didn't know where the fucking spell was. But you can get that if you want. If you head to the northwest corner in the ruins, the most, the northern westernmost building has a basement in it, which has a chest that has the rock slaying spell. So here it is on the map in case you want a reference on the map. In addition to that, we're also going to head over to the Ag Heel Lake south side of Grace in southern Limgrave, and to the east of that, there's a ruin that has a scroll on it, which has a spell that we're going to want. So you can take from the road right next to this little camp that's on this cliff here, there's a spirit stream that lets you go right up into the camp, and then you can just jump onto the ruin here, and on the corpse, there is the Royal House scroll. And then finally, we're going to head over to the lake-facing cliffs, and on that first marker that I pointed there, again, I wasn't entirely sure which spot it was at, in that first marker, there is a graveyard, and in this graveyard, there is the Academy Scroll, which has another spell that we're going to want. So in order to purchase these spells, there's a couple people you can give it to. I prefer to give it to Muriel at the Church of Vows. So from the Academy Gate Town, if you head to the northeast, that'll take you to the eastern Liurnia lakeshore. You can follow the road around, and then that'll take you up onto the cliffs here. And if you follow the road to the west, that will bring you over to the Church of Vows. So this is a big-ass church. You can see it like overlooks the lake, whatever. And then there is a giant turtle. His name is Muriel. Talk to him. He has a fuckload of dialogue. When he eventually finishes telling you the history of the entire fucking universe, you can give him the scrolls, and then he will sell you the spells that the scrolls unlock. So you're giving him the Royal House scroll and the Academy scroll. If you go to Steady Sorcery afterwards, you'll find the spells from those scrolls in his inventory. So you want to buy Carrion Slicer and Great Glintstone Shard. You only start off with 2 memory slots, so those are the important ones. Glimpe Phalanx is also a nice spell, but I didn't use it in this guide. So at any site of grace, you can go to the Memorize Spell menu and select the spells that you want to equip. So we're going to use Great Glintstone Shard and Carrion Slicer. In addition to that, you can also get more memory stones to unlock your spell slots. So you start off with 2 spell slots, but you can get like the 3rd memory stone from like the Twin Maiden Husk at the Round Table Hold. And if you have a 3rd slot, then you can use Rock Sling as well. So, build overview. This is a very early game build, so we've got 25 Vigor, we've got 15 Mind, because, you want a decent amount of FP for casting spells with. You want at least 8 Strength, which will be boosted to at least 13 by Radagon Sword Seal. My class started with 10, so I had 10 Strength. And then you want to pump the rest of your points into Intelligence, so that you can use the Meteorite Staff and the spells and do good damage with them. For weapons, we've got the Meteorite Staff, we've got the Dagger with Golden Vow, and we're also going to be using the Crystal Sword, which we'll talk about in a second. For talismans, we've got Radagon Sword Seal, and in the second talisman slot, you're going to get the Graven School Talisman. For armor, we've got the Knight's Armor. For spells, we've got Great Glintstone Shard, Carrion Slicer, and Rock Sling. And then in the Wondrous Physic, we're going to use the Intelligence Crystal tier and the Magic Shroud and Crack tier, which I'll talk about in a minute. So make sure you upgrade the Crystal Sword. The Meteorite Staff cannot be upgraded. It's the only weapon in the game that can't be upgraded, but you don't need to upgrade it. It's solid for the early game. So we're going to upgrade the Crystal Sword instead and use that as a melee weapon as a backup to our spells. And then in your Wondrous Physic, you're going to want to equip the Intelligence Not Crystal tier. And if you don't have the Magic Shrouding tier yet, which we're going to get in a minute, you can use the Green Spill tier or whatever else you got, doesn't really matter. You're also going to want to go to your Flasks menu and give yourself at least 1 more blue flask. You want like 2 or 3 of them so that you can have FP for casting spells. That's what this build is about. So before boss fights, make sure you drink your Wondrous Physic, cast Golden Vow. Make sure you have the staff equipped so you can attack with the staff. So, whatever your attack button is, or if you have it in the left hand like me, it'll be your block button. You attack with the staff to cast the spell that you have selected. So you see on the bottom left corner, currently I have Carrion Slicer selected. When I attack with the staff, it casts Carrion Slicer. you can, you know, swap between your spells as needed, you know, get used to that, practice doing that. So here I'm using Carrion Slicer to fuck up Margit because it's a great melee range spell, and then I finished him off with Great Gunstone Shard because he was a little distance away from me. So we're going to go get the Magic Shredding Cracked here from the Mausoleum compound in northeastern Liurnia. So from the Academy Gate Town, head to the northeast. That'll take you to the eastern Liurnia Lakeshore, and then you're just going to follow the road straight north. That'll take you up to the Ruin Labyrinth and then to the Mausoleum compound. And then to the east of that is the Minor Erd Tree, which has an Erd Tree avatar surrounded by these ancestral follower guys. I used Rock Sling on them because Rock Sling does physical damage, and these guys are slightly weaker to physical damage than magic, but, you know, any of the spells will work. But yeah, so before you fight the avatar, make sure you drink your Wondrous Physic, cast Golden Vow, and then again I'm hitting it with Rock Sling here because Rock Sling also does a bunch of poise damage. It's pretty decent for getting poise breaks on enemies, but I also prefer to fight these guys close up, so I switch over to Carrion Slicer, which you can see just does ridiculous amounts of damage. And also, you see here, when I run away from him, I hit him with a throwing dagger. So, throwing daggers, you can buy them from Kale at the Church of Ella. They do a little bit of, you know, they don't do all that much damage or poise damage, but they will prevent the enemy's poise from regenerating. And so you're going to see here, now when I go back to hitting him with Rock Sling and my other stuff, I get the poise break because even though I had to run away and stop attacking him for a couple seconds, I hit him with the throwing dagger and that prevented his poise from regenerating. So that applies to all these builds, not just this one, but this is the only one where I got a clip of it. But anyway, so you see the spells do a fuckload of damage. I killed the Erd Tree avatar, and then once he dies, he will drop the Magic Shredding Cracked here, which increases all magic damage you do by 20%. So we're going to put that in the Wondrous Physic. Now, keep in mind that that only applies to magic damage. So the Rock Sling spell does not do magic damage, it does physical damage. I'm going to talk about that more in a second. You also see here, I'm using the Crystal Sword to kill Renala, because first of all, she has 80% resistance to magic damage, so using our magic spells on her, you know, isn't great. And second of all, I want to save my FP for the second phase of her boss fight. So I'm using the Crystal Sword. The main reason I use the Crystal Sword is because it's just what I have, but it also does have some intelligence scaling, you know, so it is nice for that. It does magic damage too. But yeah, so despite being like a mage, even if you're like a pure magic build, you can use melee weapons on your build. You know, and then here, so you see I'm hitting her with Rock Sling because, like I said, Renala has 80% magic resistance, but Rock Sling does physical damage. And also the Crystal Sword, which I'm using now because I'm out of FP, the Crystal Sword also does primarily physical damage, so that's what I'm hitting her with. And there I drank a blue flask. Now I have FP again, so I'm hitting her with Rock Sling for the physical damage it does, because my magic spells won't do that much damage to her. And I would have kicked her ass, but I suck, and I decided not to go back for the rematch because I don't like fighting Renala. But I will go and kill Godric instead. So again, you know, he's like a fairly high poise boss. I think he has like 105 poise. So I'm hitting him with Rock Sling to go for the poise breaks, but he comes in close, so I was like, fuck it, I'm going to switch over to Carrion Slicer, and I hit him with that shit. Carrion Slicer is really fast, and it does really high magic DPS, so if you stay up close to the enemy, you can hit them with like 1 or 2 hits from Carrion Slicer, and then get ready to dodge again, and it makes it really easy to play in like a dodge, hit, dodge style. So for the enemies like Crucible Knights and, you know, Godric or whatever, it makes it really easy to just stay up close to them and just fuck them up without getting hit yourself. I backed up a bit because he was doing some close range attacks, and I hit him with Rock Sling. That damaged his poise enough that when I came in with the Crystal Sword, I hit him with the Charge Heavy attack and got the poise break, and then I fucked him up. Build number 4, the Winged Scythe Faith build. For this build, we're going to use the Winged Scythe, which scales with Faith, so we need to go to the Weeping Peninsula south of Limgrave. Once you go down into the peninsula, you can go over to the west side of it by following the road to the west. That'll take you up here to the Church of Pilgrimage. And then the Winged Scythe is located in ruins directly to the southwest of the church. So you can use the Minor Erd Tree plateau thing there as a point of reference in case you need it. Go down into the Tombs Road ruins. You can run past the 2 pages there. Just be careful not to get fucked up by their perfumer's bolts. And inside the chest, you will get the Winged Scythe. And then you can just get on Torrent and just run up and out of the ruins to not get murdered by the pages. So make sure you upgrade the Winged Scythe. We're also going to go over to the Twin Maiden Husks, and we're going to grab the Finger Seal from them for 800 runes. The build is going to focus on using the Scythe, but we can use the Finger Seal to cast some incantations because we're going to have the Faith Root anyway, and so we're going to go grab another buff in addition to Golden Vow and the Wondrous Physic. Before we get that buff, you can talk to Corin in the Round Table Hold, and he sells a bunch of incantations. Catch Flame is a really good one, and I really strongly recommend you get it, and I'll show that later. There's also Flame Sing. I'm not going to use it in this guide, but it's nice to have too. So in order to grab that buff, we're going to head over to Fort Gale in Caelid. So if you go into Caelid, literally as soon as you get inside Caelid, just head directly south and you'll see the fort right there. So there's a Site of Grace north of it that you can grab called Fort Gale North. Grab the Grace, then we're going to go to the fort. We're going to go around the back of the fort. So you saw where the gate was, you can just go around the corner there. There's a soldier guarding a ladder. We don't actually need to go inside the fort, we're going to the back end of the fort. You can drop down, and on this corpse in between these two flame chariots, there is the Flame Grant Me Strength spell. Try not to get owned by the flame chariots on your way out. As with the rest of these builds, we've got 25 Vigor, but you're going to want to get to 40 as soon as possible. We've got 11 Endurance because we need a little bit of extra equip load because this stuff is kind of heavy. We've got 11 Strength and 11 Dex, which will both be boosted to 16 by Radagon Source Seal, so we hit the minimum requirements for the Scythe, and then I pumped all the rest of the points into Faith and brought that up to 26. For weapons, we've got the Wing Scythe, we've got a Dagger with the Golden Vow Ash of War, and we've got the Finger Seal. For our talismans, we've got the Radagon Source Seal and the Warrior Jar Shard. If you don't have the Warrior Jar Shard, you can use the Winged Sword Insignia instead. For armor, we've got the Knight set. We also have Flame Grant Me Strength as a spell, and for the Wondrous Physic, we've got the Faith Knot Crystal tier and the Holy Shroud and Crack tier, which I'll show you how to get in a second. As with the rest of these builds, make sure you upgrade the Scythe to +5 using the Somber Stones that we picked up. We're going to go to any Site of Grace and go to the Memorize Spells menu. You can equip Catch Flame if you want. It's a solid spell and I recommend you use it. It's not really like a major part of this build, but I'll show it later too. And we're also going to equip Flame Grant Me Strength, which is a buff that will increase our physical damage by 20%. You're also going to want to mix your Wondrous Physic. We're going to use the Faith Knot Crystal tier. If you don't have the Holy Shroud and Crack tier, then you can use the Green Spill tier, and I'll show you how to get the Holy tier in a minute. So, before boss fights, you want to drink your Wondrous Physic, switch to the Dagger and cast Golden Vow, and then you want to use the Finger Seal to cast Flame Grant Me Strength. Switch to the Scythe, and preferably two-handed, that's how I prefer to use it. Drink a blue flask so you have FP for the Ash of War. You're going to walk up to the bad guy and hit them with the Scythe. The Ash of War is pretty solid. It does pretty good damage, especially if you have the Warrior Jar Shard equipped. I also really like just the Scythe moveset in general. You see I'm doing light attacks, and I go for heavy attacks too. The Scythe is nice because in addition to all the holy damage that we're doing, it also does a bleed buildup. That's why he took so much damage there, because I procced a bleed on him. It's not much, I think it's only 55, but it does add up. If you keep up the pressure, you can proc bleeds on enemies, and that adds to your DPS as well. Here's something I want to show off. So I can jump that shockwave, and then he does a second one here, and since the Ash of War makes you jump up into the air, you can use that to dodge jumpable attacks too. It's fairly easy to do, and it looks sick as fuck, so that's why I think that's pretty cool. So I wanted to show that off in case you want to add some style to your gameplay, you know. But yeah. Other than that, you know, spam the Ash of War if you have the Warrior Jar Shard. You can also just hit the enemy to build up bleed buildup and go for poise breaks and stuff. It does pretty decent poise damage with its charged heavy attacks. The second charged heavy attack is kind of slow. You're going to see that right here when I do this one. And it's kind of a long animation, but it does do a whole bunch of damage. And then here, I go for the crit, and I almost killed him. Now I killed him. Yeah, there you go. So, in order to get the Holy Shroud and Crack tier, we're going to head up to the northeast Minor Erdtree in Liurnia. So I'm going to show this clip once more. From the Academy Gate Town, go to the northeast. That'll take you to the eastern Liurnia Lakeshore. Follow the road north. That'll take you past the eastern Tableland in the Ruined Labyrinth. And then you'll go straight up into the Mausoleum Compound. And to the east of that, there is the Minor Erdtree. So the tree has Erdtree Avatar we need to kill, and it's surrounded by these Ancestral Follower guys. They're pretty easy to kill. Here I am using the Ash of War, doing a bunch of damage. It gets good range. So if like an enemy is like coming at you, because those ancestral follower guys like to come at you with like a combo of hits, you can do it from a distance away and use it to like interrupt that and stun them. So that's a pretty useful function that it does. But yeah, as for the tree itself, just beat the shit out of it with the Scythe. It's immune to bleed, so you're not going to get that, but most of your damage is coming from the hits with the Scythe itself anyway. So you shouldn't have too much trouble killing this guy. You know, try not to get owned like I almost did right here. For the sake of brevity, I'm going to speed up the rest of this fight because I kill like 5 avatars in this guide, and it's kind of repetitive, so I'm just going to speed this shit up. But when this guy dies, in addition to the Magic Shrouding tier, he also drops the Holy Shrouding tier and the Lightning tier. But the one we're using right now is the Holy tier, so put that in your Wondrous Physic. It will enhance the Scythe's Holy damage, because you can see it does more Holy damage than physical damage. So, you know, it's a Holy weapon. Here I am fighting Loretta. She's also immune to bleed, but she is kind of weak to Holy, and you're going to see when I hit her with the Ash of War, I don't think I even have the Warrior Jar Shard equipped, but you see, it does a pretty good amount of damage. So this is a very solid weapon. You can totally just spam the Ash of War to kill shit, but I recommend use, you know, the full moveset to flesh out your ability more and get owned less, because spamming the Ash of War can get you hit a lot if you're, you know, just doing that mindlessly and not dodging. So here I wanted to show Catch Flame. So Catch Flame is a very strong spell. We didn't upgrade the Finger Seal at all, but you see here with the buffs that we've got, which are what we're using to buff Catch Flame is Golden Vow and Flame Granting Strength here. Plus this tree, it has a 100% weakness to fire, so it takes double damage from fire. Catch Flame fucked it up really good. I ran out of FP, so I had to finish off with the Scythe, which also does a whole bunch of damage like you just saw. But my point is that Catch Flame is super strong. If you upgrade the seal, then it is going to be amazing for the game. And it's a really good way to supplement your moveset with fire damage, and that avatar drops the Flame Shrouding Crack tier, which will boost it even more. Build number 5, the Reduvia Arcane build. The Reduvia can be found in the Murkwater Ravine right at the start of the game in Limgrave. Unfortunately, we do need to kill an enemy to get the Reduvia, so when I made this video, part of my intent of it was like, oh, I'll make builds using weapons that don't need to kill enemies or bosses to get, and which you can use Sombra Stones to upgrade them really easily. And so here you see the path down into the ravine. You just go down by the bridge and then go under it and just follow that shit north. But yeah. But there's no other good arcane weapons early on, so we're going to have to kill this guy to get the Reduvia. But fortunately, this guy is really easy to kill. So once you get into the middle of the ravine, you'll get kicked off of Torrent, and this guy, Bloody Finger Nereus, will invade you. So we still have the katana from before, so we're going to drink the Wondrous Physic, cast Golden Vow, and then what you're going to do with the Uchi is you're going to use the Unsheath skill. If you use the light attack version of it, which does the sideways slash there, so you hold down the skill button and then you hit your light attack button. This attack is pretty quick and it gets decent range, so it should only take like 3 or 4 of them to kill him. You saw I got a bleed proc there when I hit him with another light attack afterwards, and so he died pretty quick and he will drop the Reduvia. As with the rest of these builds, this is a very early game build, so we're going to have 25 Vigor, which will be boosted to 30 by Radagon Soreseal, and then after that, the Reduvia has really low requirements to use. You might need to put a couple points into Dex, depending on your starting class, but the Radagon Soreseal will boost that by 5 points, and you only need 13 to wield the Reduvia, and then after that, you're just going to dump all your points into Arcane, because the Reduvia scales with Arcane. For our weapons, we've got the Reduvia and a dagger with the Golden Vow Ash of War. For our talismans, we've got Radagon Soreseal, and then preferably you would use the Warrior Jar Shard. If you don't want to use that, if you don't want to kill Alexander or whatever, then you can use the Winged Sword Insignia instead. For our armor, we've got the Knight set, and then in our Wondrous Physic, we've got the Dex Knot Crystal tier, because there's no Arcane Crystal tier, so we're using the Dex tier because the Reduvia has a little bit of Dex scaling, and we're going to be using the Crimson Burst Crystal tier for health regen, which I'll show you how to get. As usual, don't forget to upgrade the Reduvia using the Sombra Stones we got, and then in your Wondrous Physic, at any Site of Grace, you're going to equip the Dex Crystal tier, and I'm going to use the Green Spill Crystal tier for now, but in a minute I'll show you how to get the Crimson Burst tier, which is the preferred tier for this build. So before boss fights, as usual, make sure you drink your Wondrous Physic, switch to the dagger, cast Golden Vow, and then switch back to your weapon, which in this case is the Reduvia. I like to two-hand it because I prefer the two-handed moveset, moveset. And what you're going to do with the Reduvia is walk up to the enemy. You want to get at point blank range, and you're going to use the Ash of War Reduvia Bloodblade. And so you see your guy swings the dagger and shoots out like a blood projectile, a blood blade you might call it, and that does a bunch of damage and a bunch of bleed buildup. So for enemies that can bleed, it'll fuck them up real quick, but it also does good damage even if the enemy doesn't bleed. It's going to do a bunch of damage no matter what. So a lot of people make the mistake of using the Reduvia at range and hitting the enemy with just the blood blades. You want to do it right up close to the enemy, so you're hitting with both the dagger and the blood blade for maximum damage and maximum bleed buildup. So anyway, here we are at the Minor Erdtree in the Weeping Peninsula. You just go south of Limgrave and it's pretty easy to get to the tree from there. We're going to kill the Erdtree Avatar here for the Crimson Burst Crystal tier, which gives us health regen over time. There's not really that many other, early crystal tiers that synergize with this weapon well, so I figured we'd get this one because it's just a nice tier to have. So the tree is immune to bleed because, it's a tree. It doesn't have blood inside of it. But you see, even though I'm not doing bleed buildup, I'm still fucking it up. And especially when I hit it at point blank range, so that both the blood blade projectiles and the dagger itself hit, that makes it do the maximum damage. So you really want to do this at point blank range to maximize your damage. But once the tree dies, it will drop the Crimson Burst Crystal tier, which gives you health regen over time. I think it's 7 health per second for 3 minutes, so it's a whole bunch of health regen, and it's very nice to have. So one thing I want to showcase about this specifically, one thing that I really love about this weapon and this Ash of War is that since it's fast, it's really easy to hit an enemy a couple times and then just stop and dodge their attacks. So these guys, the Bell-Bearing Hunters, they punish you when you run away from them because they start doing like their flying magic sword bullshit. But if you stay up close to them, he's got a pretty basic slow moveset. And so you have a lot of opportunities to either hit the enemy with, or hit him with the blood blade, hit him with 1 or 2 of those, or hit him with the dagger a couple times, and then stop attacking and dodge a combo. So I fucked up there because I just messed up my dodge timing, but you should see the general point of what I mean. You can dodge an attack, hit him once or twice, and then go to dodge again, right? So if you don't just spam the attack button, you're pretty much invincible because you can just dodge so much. But here I am sucking and just, getting television trying to kill him. But it does work with that dodge hit dodge playstyle really well, and that's something that I love about the Reduvia and about Bloodblade. But anyway, that's it for this video. Hopefully you found this helpful. I gave 5 different builds. I'll probably write some stuff down in the description about what you can do going forward with these builds. I mentioned you definitely want to get your Vigor up first thing. You don't worry about upgrading your damage stats until you have 40 Vigor, because most of your damage comes from weapon upgrades and buffs, not your stats. So Vigor is definitely what you want to get, and then I'll probably put some other stuff about like other things you can get for like talismans and shit like that down in the description, so read that if you want to use these builds and expand upon them as you go further into the game. If you found this video helpful, please leave a like, share the video, and consider subscribing or joining my channel as a member. It really helps me out. My name is Diabedor, and I will catch you later.